Well, hello and welcome to the Bradford National Bank podcast studio here in beautiful downtown Highland, Illinois. This is the Highland Dirt Podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Vonder. Haar. How you guys doing tonight? You doing good? I'm doing great. Hello to all of our friends watching live on social media via Facebook, YouTube, and X. If you have any questions for us during the podcast, please put them in the comments section and we'll do our best to get to them. We got a great show for you tonight. Joining us on the podcast will be local dirt racing expert Jacob Blumenstein. And in just a few minutes, we'll be joined by the 2023 World of Outlaws late model champ, the smooth operator, Bobby Pierce. Tonight's Highland Dirt podcast is brought to you by Jensen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com. With Jansen Ford of Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown, they have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. Jansen Auto Group is proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. So you might be asking yourself, again, what is the Highland Dirt Podcast? We'll go over this the first couple of times. The Highland Dirt Podcast features dirt racing talk, plus news, information, and interviews from some of your favorite people and personalities in and around world famous Highland Speedway. Well, next question, what is Highland Speedway, right? Well, Highland Speedway, for those of you that don't know, is a quarter-mile bullring style dirt track. We're located in Highland, Illinois, about 30 minutes east of St. Louis, Missouri. We've been racing in the dirt on Saturday nights since 1962. We race super late models, modifieds, pro modifieds, and street stocks under the dirt car banner, plus micro sprints, 410 wing sprints, extreme outlaw series, 4 cylinders, vintage and kids mods. We race it all in the dirt, all in a covered facility with seating for 3,000, located on the beautiful Madison County Fairgrounds. Did you guys get all that? Did you take notes? Well, now that you know a little bit more about the podcast, again, you got another brief history lesson on Highland Speedway. Let me introduce my co-host for tonight's podcast. He's a dirt racing fanatic. He has more streaming subscriptions than pets. He finished third in the Warrior division, right, in 2023, and he knows every second in the Warrior division.
No, I meant third place, second year running. So
okay, and he's
I'm back third place points runner.
There
up,
you go.
I guess.
Well, we want to make sure we get the intro right, so it's our friend Jacob Blumenstein. What's up, Jacob?
What's going on, Kurt?
So before we bring on our guest for tonight, let's just talk real briefly for a couple minutes about some things that went on in the last week in dirt racing. So dirt car late models and World of Outlaw late models were at Volusia. I think we've missed 4 nights of racing since we talked last. 2 nights of dirt car late models and then 2 nights to open the World of Outlaws season. I think we were doing our podcast when the big pileup happened, right, on Tuesday night?
Yeah. That's the one that collected, I think, eight drivers, something like that.
And then Devin Moran with the win that night. Go to the next night to Wednesday night. Bobby Pierce picks up the win. And then I think, you know, what a lot of people are talking about, and we're going to pull up the video here, was on Thursday night, and that would be the Nick Hoffman last lap pass on Chris Madden. Were you watching that night?
Yeah, yes, I was. I mean, the last few nights of Volusia, I mean, it's been about anybody's race. You know, they've all been very good races, and they talked about like how they resurfaced the track, and I think the racing's been awesome down there.
Yeah, let's watch this. Let's watch this last lap pass by Nick Hoffman to win his second World of Outlaws late model win.
Table all in. Here comes Hoffman.
Smoky Chris Madden.
Down the back Chris
Madden. Throws it in here for a big slide job, right?
Yeah, because I know Madden said in his post-race interview, like he was just having issues leaving the turns. Like he just had no grip.
But pretty exciting race there on Thursday night. And that was to kick off the World of Outlaws season, right?
I don't. I think they started the first time they were there. That's the confusing thing about speed weeks is that there's so many races and they're under like the Outlaws or the Lucas Oil banner, but not every night's a points night. So
It's
I
hard
think they
to.
started off the first trip like 3 weeks ago. Then the Friday, Saturday were points nights. But to be
Okay.
honest,
Yep.
I'm really not sure.
Yeah. I think you might be right. So Nick Hoffman picked up the win night 1, and then night 2, Friday night, Devin Moran picked up another win at Volusia, and then Saturday night was a rain out, right?
Yeah, yeah. They called it, I think, by like noon our time.
Yeah,
So
because I know
they called it early.
the Flow guys. I know they were talking. They had already changed their flights and were headed back home pretty early in the day. So one other thing I want to talk about. You saw this tire bulletin that came out, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so let me just read it off. And this came out through Lucas Oil, late model series, and also through the World of Outlaws. So effective immediately, washing tires or spraying substances of any type on tires will not be permitted within 3 hours of the scheduled hot lap time on any given race day. Dipping tires into large containers, i.e. swimming pools, and chilling or heating tires, i.e. freezers, ice baths, torches, or other means of direct heat will not be permitted at any point. And it sounds like if you're caught doing it, you're going to be kicked off not only the World of Outlaws series, but also the Lucas Oil series too, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I really don't understand the ice bath part. I under washing them. Yeah, 3 hours. Everyone washes their tires for the most part beforehand. And the heating I can understand because these tires have heat cycles and different compounds. The sooner you can get them hot, you know, like a harder tire takes longer to fire. It just takes more heat. So, it'd be an advantage that way. So heating them I can understand, but soaking them in an ice or a freezer, I really have no understanding of what that could do.
Yeah, well, when they came out with it, it was pretty specific. So I wonder if they caught somebody. They didn't come out with anything official from WRG or from Lucas Oil on who maybe the culprit was, but if you believe what's on social media, the rumor is that there was one particular team that apparently had some soapy water in a swimming pool, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to try to do something, you got to be, I guess, a little bit more secretive. If you're the only guy in these pits where there's 60 to 80 cars and you just got tires soaking in a kiddie pool and it's obviously foaming or whatever the case was, like it's obvious. So I wish I knew more. I've heard rumors of who it was, and I don't want to spread misinformation. I don't want to be
Yep.
one of those guys. But I've heard of people doing it at Highland before. Like they just doing it in front of their trailer. Like you can walk into a trailer and obviously smell what's going on.
Hmm. Whatever it takes to win, huh? And I guess, yeah, there was apparently a couple of racers who left after, I think, Tuesday night down at Volusia. So again, we won't spread rumors, but if you go searching on social media, you can probably find out more information if you want to dig on that.
Maybe our
But
guest knows.
yeah, you know what? And speaking of that, I tell you what, let's go ahead and bring him on. So let's talk to a guy who's pretty close to all of this action. So our guest tonight, I think he might have something to say about tires, maybe something to say about Volusia. He just won a big gator down at Volusia after winning, I think, on Monday and Wednesday night of last week. He's the 2023 World of Outlaws champion, the 2023 XR Super Series champion, the 2023 Flow Racing Night in America champion, and he's on one hell of a run the last few months. It's a smooth operator, Bobby Pierce. What's up, Bobby?
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for coming on.
appreciate you joining us. You're just getting back from Volusia. You said you flew back from Volusia, left the hauler in the car, down with our boy Stevie Stevenson down at Golden Isles, huh?
Yeah, once Volusia got over, we were deciding what we were going to go race next, and it was on our minds to go race the XR race at it was called Friendship, now it's called Ultimate Speedway or whatever, because there's a World of Outlaw race going on there at some point in time. So we were going to get some laps, but the XR series canceled that race because of weather. So then we were like, well, we were loading up at Volusia, and I said, well, let's race Golden Isles next weekend. So yeah, the guys are there working on the stuff, getting it ready to go for the weekend. I flew back home, and I'm going to fly out soon and probably get out there in time to watch the High Limit Series on Thursday night, get a little look at the racetrack, see what it's looking like, and go racing Friday and Saturday.
Yep. What have you been up to the last few days at home? Has it been nice to relax for a little bit?
Yeah, it has been because, I mean, normally when I'm home, the cars are here, so I'm out in the shop working on them. But since they're not here, I don't really have anything to do. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of stuff I could still be doing in the shop, but I kind of don't want to. So I've just been chilling.
Hey, sometimes you gotta mentally prepare yourself, and I think that's something we're gonna ask you about here a little later on. But let's real quick. I'm gonna turn it over to Jacob for the next question, but I want to ask you the first one. Let's talk about your 2023 championship season with the World of Outlaws. Your initial plan was to run the series last year, but then you didn't have the greatest start. Didn't you blow a couple of engines down to start the season at Volusia?
Yeah, so last year for us, the start was very rocky. So I know you guys were talking about what was the kickoff for the Outlaw season. So we raced in Volusia in January. So this was last year also. So last year we raced in January at Volusia. We have 3 races, and out of the 3 races, we only got 2 of them in because one of them rained out. Well, both of those races I had DNFs, so not a very good start to this season. We came back in February, won a race, and then from then on, we had to just dig ourselves out of a hole. Eventually, ended up winning the World of Outlaw Championship last year. So, but this year, yeah, we're off to a very better start because we had I think a 6, a 4th, a 3rd, and a 3rd, and we came out 6 points in the lead for the World of Outlaw Championship. So, a much better start this year. We don't have to dig ourselves out of a hole, and we even have the point lead. So,
Well, yeah, looking back at 2023, 14 World of Outlaw victories in 38 starts. And there were some people out there that said Bobby Pierce would never win a World of Outlaws race, right?
yeah,
Said, oh, he's only a Summer Nationals guy.
I mean, hey, I don't blame him. Summer Nationals for me was pretty good. I've won it 5 times, and I was just looking at the schedules at the beginning of last year, and when I switched to Longhorn, I think it gave me a little more confidence too to go to some of these other places and kind of venture out and see what we can do. And I'm glad we did because it was an awesome year last year for us and proved a lot of people wrong. We stayed on the Outlaws, and we didn't just stay on the whole tour, but we won it. So yeah, it was an awesome year.
14 World of Outlaws victories in 38 starts, 34 wins overall, I think in 90 some starts. You took over the points lead, like you said, at World of Outlaws. I think it was at the end of June at Mason City, Iowa. And you pretty much, man, you went on a run after that and kind of never looked back.
Yeah, it was there was a stretch there where we were making little gains at a time, and then we just started winning all sorts of races. I think it was kind of when we went up to the Northwest there. We were in like northern Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, some of those tracks like that. During that time, I think is when, like you said, I took the lead and never looked back after that. It was just try to grow the lead as much as we can. We were going to a lot of new tracks I've never been to before, but sometimes you go to them new places and it's almost better not knowing what to expect because you just go into it full send mode. Think about it is what it is. We'll be happy with top 5, and then you end up winning them. So,
yep. Well, Jacob, I'm going to let you go next. Go ahead.
So, how tough is dirt late model racing mentally? And I know for you, the sport's tough, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you're basically a self-funded program. Like, you're the driver, so you have to make sure all the bills are paid. You have to make sure everybody's happy. Like, how tough is that?
Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, you always hear racers say how tough of a sport it is. It takes a lot of money, whether you're on a local level or a national level. I feel like either way you're looking at it, it's not easy. So, but yeah, whenever you can, whenever you have a good year like that, it helps with everything. And whenever you have good sponsorship, that's what it's all about. You hear racers say all the time is you got to have sponsors and you got to have supporters, and whether it's anyone buying a T-shirt or whatever the case, all that helps out a lot. And yeah, obviously though, when you have 34 wins in the year like last year, it was a good year for us, and at the end of the year, we were very satisfied with the season. I actually could pay my bills and make some money at the end of the day. So yeah, it was a good year. But when you're paying for tires, motor expenses, fuel to get up and down the road, you're paying your crew, you're paying just to keep the lights on in the shop, all the expenses that come up that you don't expect, whether if you blow an engine or if you wreck a car or whatever the case may be. So but it's a pretty cool world that we live in, that we're able to go do what we do. A lot of people do it for a hobby. A lot of people work their 9 to 5s Monday through Friday and go racing at their local track on Friday and Saturday. And it's in our blood. We love it, and I think we wouldn't be rather doing anything else.
So I kind of have another part to that, and I know someone made the quote last year, and I can't remember who it was, but since you have to pay all your bills, does that change how you race? Because the pay structure from first, second to fifth, I mean, it's drastic difference. And you're, I guess known to ruffle some feathers, but you're paying your bills. So between dooring a guy for second to first, I mean, that's a big pay difference. So do you take that into any consideration, or if you're driving for somebody, are you still racing as hard as you do now?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if we're racing for $100 to win or $1 million to win, you still want that checkered flag regardless of what it's going to pay. I think just as racers, that's in us, to just be competitive and have that competitive mindset. No matter what we're racing for, you want to win. But when there is that added extra incentive to, hey, if I pull this slider on a guy that, am I going to clear it or not? But it might be $100,000 to win and $10,000 for second. You're looking at a $90,000 difference. So you got to think about them things. But at the end of the day, as a racer, I think you just make your best judgment on when you're out there racing. You got to race the other guy with respect. And, I think I race with a lot of, I'm very aggressive. So I try to be as aggressive as I can and take the moves that I can get and make the passes, but in the same sense, not running over a guy, but heck, when you're going 100 and whatever miles per hour out there and on a little tight bull ring, things happen fast. So you're going to make some mistakes here and there, but at the end of the day, I think, you're just trying to do the best you can without being too much.
Yeah, no, because I was a grandstand racer. Like, you see someone spin out in front of you, and the guy behind you clobbers you. It's like, what were you doing? How did you not see that? Now that I've got a little bit of track experience, it's like, holy cow! Like I said, I run a front wheel drive car, and it's maybe half speed of what you guys operate. So, like, take it for Highland, stuff happens fast. So, I mean, it's if something happens, it's like, well, yeah, that happens. Like, you just can't react quick enough.
Right. Yeah, that's always the worst too, when you're having a good night and something happens, and then you end up getting spun out or whatever, and you're just sitting there hoping. You're like, oh man, hope no one comes and house me, and then the guy running dead last, here he comes. But yeah.
Is there anything you do, Bobby, to kind of mentally, like any kind of mental training or anything you do? I mean, meditation, anything you do specifically maybe before a race to relax or anything like that?
Man, honestly, what I like to do before a race, if I have the time, because a lot of times we're go, but if I have the time, I like to just go in the holler, take my shoes off, sit on the couch for a while, just relax and play on my phone, just kind of escape reality for a little bit, kind of reset your mind into, sometimes when you're go so much out there, you're working on the car and you're just working on the setup for the night, thinking about what to do, and you're talking to fans, this and that and the other. A lot of it can become pretty overwhelming. So yeah, if you have the time, go in there, eat you some food, relax. That's nice. But I don't know. I do play some video games from time to time, but don't really have time for that before the races start.
What's the video game of choice that you play?
I've been playing a lot lately. I play a lot of Call of Duty, Rocket League, Fall Guys. I played Madden a lot. I got on a Madden kick lately.
All right, my 18-year-old plays Call of Duty. What's your name on Call of Duty?
It's like my nickname, but it's kind of spelled out weird.
Oh yeah, so it looks like Smooth Operator.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to give it out.
You're gonna have 200 random ads later.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, hey, you went down to New Zealand. You just came back from the trip down there. How was the trip? I mean, the travel looked pretty brutal, but you went down there and picked up a win.
Yeah, man. New Zealand is fun. That was my 4th time there. It's a long, long flight. You know, you gotta be mentally prepared for the flight because on the way there, I flew from Chicago straight there, which was 14 or 15 hours. But on the way home, I had to catch several different flights, and that took like 36 hours round trip from the time I woke up to the time I got home. But anyways, being at New Zealand, like I said, that was my 4th time, and over there we don't necessarily race late models, but they're very similar to a late model. They're called super saloons, and now they can run like 4-bar suspension like a late model has, and various things. But they do have different rules, so they look a little funny, and but they get around there good. You know, they're I won a race my first weekend, and the second weekend I got 3rd. Almost won that race too. There was a little scuffle on the last lap, but got 3rd in that race, and it was a great time. So yeah, awesome opportunity to go do that again. Jason Fager was over there, and I know he won a couple races too. And yeah, we got to race against each other that one night. That was a lot of fun.
What I know, Jacob, didn't you call them like? Didn't they look like cartoon late models almost?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're goofy looking, but I seen the video
First
with
time
you, and I
looked up a super saloon when they first got a hold of me. I told my mom, I was like, these look like Hot Wheels cars.
Yeah.
Going around dirt. But yeah, so good time.
Well, I think everything but the.
well, there was a video we talked about. I think it was our first podcast, and I don't know what night it was, or if it was in Hot Laps or anything, but you looked so much more talented than the other drivers you were passing. The way you entered the turns, like you just blasted the top. Like the way how far you pitched it in there and drove around. Like, are those guys over there pretty good? Are they full-time racers?
Yeah, so over there they don't race like we do over here. So they'll probably race about, I don't know. I think they get lucky to race 30 races in the year, and they don't race for like any money. I think they might race for a couple $100 here and there. It's not much. Whereas over here we're used to seeing $10,000 to win late model races are like a regular thing, right? But yeah, they don't race as much, and their tracks are really flat and narrow. So like 90% of their racetracks seem like they're super flat and narrow because they're built around old rugby fields and rugby stadiums. So they kind of have, that similar size and shape of a lot of the tracks because it was built around, obviously a sized out rugby field. And yeah, they say if you get too low, also they'll penalize you. So if you get your left front tire in the grass, they call it the pole line, they'll dock you some positions at the end of the race because you can't get on the grass. They're very finicky about that, and just some of their other rules. They have scrutineers, is what they call them. So like race judges, and it's kind of a different world over there. It's a lot of things are very similar, and then some things will just be completely different. It's like a parallel universe, but just with little different things here and there. So, but there was that one race, like I think what you're talking about. I sailed around the outside. And normally their racetracks don't build much of a cushion, so they're not really used to that. But they are pretty good though. They're I mean, for how much they get to race, I think they're pretty good. Some of them come over here to America from time to time, and I know a lot of them go to the World 100 and watch that and things, and yeah. So.
Well, I know. Talk about you had a little crash though on that coaster. I know you posted a video. What happened there? Were you doing a coaster with Fager or something like that?
So yeah, if you ever get the chance to go to New Zealand, and a lot of people don't know where New Zealand is. It's by Australia, by the way, but it's not in Australia because so many people say, "How is Australia?" And it's not Australia. But yeah, so that what you're talking about, that's called the luge, and they have one in the North Island of New Zealand and one in the South Island. And anytime you get if you go to New Zealand, you have to do this. It's so much fun. And you're in a little cart and it's just gravity. You're just going down a hill and you have brakes and you have steering and that's all you got. And you definitely got to use the brakes. I'll tell you that. That's what happened. You get to see the video on Jason Fager's TikTok is Ben Harding, the owner of the car I was racing, he was out front, and I don't think he used enough brake, and he went flying into the wall, and here I come piling into him. So it was a pretty funny moment, and luckily nobody got hurt.
I was gonna say no injuries coming back from New Zealand, right?
Yeah, no.
Yep. Jacob, you wanted to ask him something. We were talking about Longhorn earlier, but I think you had a pretty specific question about that.
Yeah. So, what's your secret to being so adaptable to I wouldn't say chassis hop, but you were in your family stuff. You went to Rocket, I think in 2018, 2019, back to your family stuff, and you were fast right out of the hole in the Longhorn while you watch, or we watch Bishop not come up to speed as quick, So, I know you can't tell us your secret, but what makes you so adaptable to different situations?
Nah, just I really don't know, but just the experience of racing these things for so long, with the help of my dad too. I will say, we kept everything pretty freaking basic. When I first practiced at Longhorn, I was expecting kind of a similar situation to when I practiced the Rocket for the first time. So, like you said, I did race a Rocket back in 2018, and when I first practiced a Rocket, I felt like I was really far out of my comfort zone. I felt like the car handled a lot differently than my Pierce car. And then we had to make a lot of changes to it. And then last year when I switched to Longhorn, I was expecting kind of the same thing. I thought, okay, here we go. I'm going to have to change my driving style. I'm going to have to adapt and this and that. And that first practice session, about half a lap into practice, I was already going the next corner, foot to the floor, just hammer down. So I think right out of the gate, it fit me pretty well. Just their setup right out of the shop. And, I knew right then and there we were going to have a pretty solid year because my worries were kind of gone because I was like, oh, here we go again, switching cars. It's going to be tough. It's going to take us forever to figure it out. We're going to have to make lots of changes if I don't like it. But I don't know. It just fit me right out of the gate. We went to Votto, almost won that very first night out. I ended up spinning out and backing into the wall, but I think I ended up winning the fourth night because JD won the first 3 nights in a row. And after that, he didn't win another one that week. And I won the fourth night and won the final night, beat Kyle Larson. And then, yeah, that was the start of our season last year. After that, just got better and better. So but also
kind of,
Bill
go
Steen,
ahead.
sorry, I was also on Blumenstein shocks the whole time, which was their thing. And I think Shepard at first didn't switch right to Blumenstein until a little later. And maybe that was some of what took him a little while, I think he was trying to make the Integras work on it.
I gotcha. Because I know, I think, was it a few years ago when Strickler was in Rocket, he tried making the Bilsteins work. And what makes these chassis not compatible with shocks? Is it just like since Bilstein and Longhorn, or just that's what they're working on? Or
I think it's just, everything that just is compatible with one another. You take back when I was racing my Pierce car, I had advanced suspension forever. And I think just years of working on it and fine tuning it, I think that's just kind of what it comes down to is, Longhorn's had a long time fine tuning the Bilstein shocks and just finding a setup that works the best with that. So I think that's just sometimes what ends up working. But there's more than one ways to skin a cat, and they'll tell you that.
Kurt, did you have anything?
Yeah, how's your dad Bob doing? I know he had a little bit of a medical issue last year. Just wanted to see, and what's it kind of meant to have your dad along with you kind of every step of the way?
Oh man, it's huge. I mean, it's if I wouldn't have had him every step of the way, I definitely wouldn't be anywhere close to where I'm at now. So it's huge to have him helping me out. He's basically like car chief. He works on the car a little bit, but mostly just me and him kind of talk back and forth about setting up the car, and he kind of handles some of that. And he's at every race. Of course, he's there sticking me or gloves, whatever you can run. And you saw the other night, I think it was at Volusia, the final night when Devin won. I almost passed Devin for the lead, and Devin Moran started running that slider line. And he says in his interview that his dad was there that night and was helping signal him and told him to start running that slider line getting into turn one. And that's possibly what won him the race. So, sometimes little things like that, someone that has been with you forever that you work well with, and they know you, they know your racing style and stuff like that. And my dad, he raced forever too. So he can kind of see what's going on the racetrack, and he kind of knows what that field is too, because he's done it so long. So yeah, it means the world that he's there all the time. And my mom too, my mom's selling t-shirts. Of course, they take the t-shirt trailer to every single racetrack, and that's kind of their deal. And I go with the guys in the truck. So, but yeah, he was diagnosed with cancer. I guess it was last year or 2 years ago. I don't know, but so far he's been pretty clear.
Okay.
He goes in for a checkup, so he's been doing pretty good. So yeah.
Well, dirt racing probably keeps him young because he what is your dad, 70? Is he 70?
72, I think it is, like in 3 days.
I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he looks like a man in his 50s.
Yeah, definitely. That's what he says too. Is racing keeps him young, and I think that's great advice for anybody that wants to stay young. If you keep your body active and just you're doing stuff every day. When you're working on a race car, you're getting up and down off the floor, and you're just keeping your body active, and yeah, it helps.
He's a fit guy, and you grew up racing the bull rings with your dad here in Illinois. Who are maybe some of the racers that you looked up to growing up?
Oh man, I'm sure there was a lot of them that probably raced at Highland Speedway from time to time. So when I was growing up, my dad, let's see, about the year about 2003, 2004, around that time frame, like if you didn't have a Bob Pierce modified, you were slow. So there was a lot of guys that had my dad's modifieds at the time, so I could kind of grow up watching them guys and cheering on the guys that raced my dad's cars. And some of them were Denny Schwartz, Chad Kinder, Jeff Lika, Hamstra. I'm probably forgetting a lot of guys, but those are some that around the Illinois area that were for sure some of the guys to beat. And so I kind of grew up a dirt modified fan mostly.
Okay.
Modifies before late models.
So Schwartz, I think, is that a relation to Deese Schwartz? He won a either modified or pro mod race at Highland last year.
Yep. Right.
Yep. What about who are maybe some of the drivers you would consider maybe some of your good friends now?
Yeah, probably some of them that, like I grew up when I first started racing super late models, like Devin Moran. He was young at the time too, starting in late models. Heck, Tyler Reddick. We raced like a full season of the Summer National Tour together before he started racing NASCAR. And there's a few of them, but you can't ever get too friendly with your competitors because you're racing for a lot. But
and that was my question. I was going to say, do drivers sit around and talk chassis? Is there a Longhorn table? Is there a Rocket table, at the local restaurant when you guys are traveling? Do you get any info from like the Longhorse house team or B Shep? I mean, what kind of information is maybe shared there?
Yeah. And you kind of do a little bit, but in the same sense, it's, I don't know. I guess for me anyways, my experience with it is like, no one wants to help you out too much if you're winning a lot. So if you're struggling a little bit, then you probably get some more information from guys. But I'm just sitting here thinking too. I forgot about like Ryan Unzicker. He's raced Highland a lot, and I'm good friends with Ryan Unzicker. Brandon Shepard, of course, he used to have my dad's cars, and before he went to Rocket, and then before he went to Longhorn, of course. So I don't know, man. There's a lot. Jason Fager, I used to race a lot with him, and I still do a lot today. But back when I was cutting my teeth, kind of growing up watching him race and then being able to race against him, that was pretty cool because he had my dad's cars at one time too, and he wasn't afraid to put it on the fence. I think that's kind of where I learned a thing or two.
Go ahead, Jacob. You're up.
Why do you race? I know it's kind of a loaded question because it's fun, but like, what's your motivation for racing? Because we talked about this. I've seen your Snapchats. Like, it's not an easy lifestyle. Like, you live in your rig. It's many late nights, and the nights you're not running great. Do you ever question like, why do I do this?
You do it for the competition and how competitive it is. And I think when you get a taste of victory and what that feels like, I think you just want to keep feeling that feeling. So you do whatever it takes. And, I can win 49 out of 50 races, and I'm going to be mad that I didn't win the 50th one. So I think that's a big thing is just how competitive the sport is. And it makes it fun because it's so competitive. And a lot of people have different reasons. I think a lot of people say it's they like to race because of the people in the sport. They make friends and stuff like that. For me, it's not as much that as it's just like I want to win, and something that you're good at doing. It makes it more fun if you're good at it. Like I don't play baseball because I can't freaking swing a baseball bat and hit a ball coming at me that fast at all. I'm not a good golfer. I'm not good at things like that. But I think that's why. And just growing up racing, obviously, like it's in my blood. I love the sport of dirt track racing. It can give you goosebumps at times, whereas like other forms of racing just doesn't do it for me. But dirt track racing is where it's at.
And I think that's an excellent answer because I work with Michael Cluse, and my coworkers always question like, "Oh, is Cluse doing this? Is he racing this weekend? Oh, Cluse, did this. Like, what's that cost?" Then I know a little bit of what stuff costs. It'll be like, "Oh yeah, engines are X amount, new cars are this amount," and they're just like, "Why? Like, why does he do that to race for $1,200 to win?" And like I said, I think it just comes down because you love it, you get the bug at an early age. And it's a tough bug to kick because you see many drivers say like, "Oh, I think I'm hanging it up." Then 6 months later, you see them out there and then they're racing again, and they got the itch more than they ever had.
Right. Yeah. Well, you see, like Billy Moyer, heck, he just can't retire. He keeps doing it year after year after year. That's someone that he's won everything there is to win, and he keeps wanting to do it, come back and doing it more and more. So, yeah, there's all sorts of reasons. Even if I wasn't racing, I'd probably be a fan in the stands from time to time. But it also even helps more that since I have raced for so long, I know I can pick up the little things like when a driver's out there racing, I can pick up what he might be doing wrong or what he needs to do to his race car. And it kind of adds an effect that I think some fans just see cars going around the racetrack. But if you've been in it a long time, you kind of know, you know if the car is running in the wrong groove on the racetrack, if he's in the slick and needs to be following the brown or what his car might be doing. So yeah, it's kind of interesting it's an interesting sport to learn. That's for sure.
Well, another part of the sport, I think you're one of the kings of merch, right? You always have, new designs, new styles. Where does the creativity come from with all that? Like your Wonder Bread stuff, your Scooby Doo. Where does that come from?
Just talking about it with friends and family. Heck, my mom, my girlfriend, other family members and friends. Everyone's has some good ideas along the way, and sometimes we do them, and sometimes we're like, I don't know how it's gonna really go along with, is everyone gonna like it? Most of the time, people end up loving it, so it's awesome to see that support.
How much work does your mom do? I mean, running the merch side of things.
She does a lot. Yeah, she does about all of it. Her and a girl that work in the shop, they handle really almost all of the shipping, and my mom handles talking with the shirt designers and getting the shirts made and everything. So yeah, it's a big long process, especially by the time from start to scratch and handling all the orders and making it to the racetrack and stocking the trailer and yeah, it's a big deal.
Well, tell the fans out there why your mom likes coming to Highland.
Uh, why my mom likes coming to Highland? There's a
Yeah.
lot. That's for sure. I think there's gonna be a lot of fans that wear Outlaw race, and
Do
there's
you remember the number one reason though? Your mom has told me this, why she likes coming to the Highland facility in particular.
is it the pool or is it something?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. If you when you have the other guest on here in a little bit, she'll tell you about that.
So yeah, the Highland Speedway facility has also the Highland City Pool is on the same tract of land. It's kind of in a valley there, and so I know that was one thing I've talked to your mom before at the merch trailer at other tracks, and I'll tell her I'm from Highland. Oh, she's like, I love that pool. I love going. She's like, sometimes I skip the merch altogether and I just go hang out at the pool.
You'll have to ask Abby about that.
That's funny. You got a story there. Well, Jacob, I think you're up next. You were going to ask maybe about some changes in the sport.
Yeah, you've been doing it a long time. What would you like to see change in the sport or go back to? I know the body rules have gotten a little out of hand. The open bore motors, they said, once they went to that, you're just throwing horsepower at the cars so they can handle it. What would you like to see change?
Man, it's tough because with every change, there's something that it affects. But there's a lot of things that could be better. That's no doubt. But it's hard, when you talk about some of you just mentioned, body rules. Well, once you go changing some body rules, it's going to affect a company that sells some things, or it's going to affect, you're going to have, like, some of us have 3 race ready cars, and that's a lot of work for the crew to, go doing body changes. But these cars have gotten pretty wide, and, we've talked to tech officials about it and everything. And sometimes it is what it is. One thing about a late model is the body is what makes it so cool, because there's nothing that quite looks like that. So that's one thing, and the motors is another thing. I personally think that racing as a whole in America would be better if, like, you take a late model. I think if across the whole country, if it was just super late models and no crate late models. And the reason I say that, even though I grew up racing crate late models and I loved it, it was a great, great thing for me, because I went and raced Highland a few times and Tri-City and a lot of tracks in that area and a lot of tracks in Illinois. And I grew up cutting my teeth racing crate late models before I jumped into supers. But I feel like if someone wants to go down a division from a super late model, there's lots of other classes. There's so many other classes out there. And personally, I like the power. So I like the 900 horsepower raw power more than you can get to the ground, because it takes a lot of throttle control and a lot of various things to, I just like the power of it. Kind of like a UMP modified. I love that UMP modified. It's a big motor compared to like IMCA. It's not as much power being put to the ground. I just like the power. But I don't know. I'll probably have to think about that one as any changes. And, I'm sure as we grow as a sport and everything, that stuff changes all the time, but we just got to do our best to try to adapt with it and keep going.
You're, owner / driver, which, like the drivers, they're the reason like some of these rules are created. So I don't know if you've had any rules written for something you were doing, but then as the owner, like, do you ever like have to contradict yourself? Like, oh, I'd love to see that go in that direction, but as a driver, like,
Yeah.
maybe you're a fan of the new tire rule, but as owner, it's like, well, I have to buy all these tires, and I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Tires is another subject. I kind of wish they just kept it 2s, 3s, and 4s. Because I know they're coming out with that 2.25 or something, whatever it is. I don't know when that'll be, but yeah, I think it's kind of both in that scenario, because as a driver, I've been doing pretty good lately with the tire rule, so I think I like it. And then B, add another tire in there that we got to have stocked in the trailer ready to go. It just takes it takes inventory away from us. That's one less spot that we have in the trailer for the other tires. So now that we got to have more compounds, it's less room in the trailer. It's more tires we got to buy and have ready to go. But I don't know. They'll probably figure it out.
Well, 2024 is 2024 finally the year that Bobby Pierce wins the Prairie Dirt Classic? What would that mean to you to win it?
Oh, man, it'd mean a lot. I mean, that's been one of the races that has always been a plague for me. We've been fast, been right there, so close to winning it, and just things happen. So that's definitely one on the list that I would very much love to win. My dad's won it 5 times. Obviously, that's back before it kind of got as big as it is now, but he still won it 5 times, and almost everything he's won, I've won or have won more of. So that's one right there that I need to start tallying up if I'm going to catch him.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend Abby loved the trophy from last year. That it was like a golden crown on top of the trophy, and her being a pageant girl, she loves. She would have really liked to have that trophy in the house, and not many trophies does she like to have in the house.
Because I've been going to the PDC since I think 2016, and I haven't missed a year. And I think you're pretty much every year you're battling for contentions. Last year was the epic battle between you and Thornton. Like that race was awesome. The previous year, I think you ran second to Larson.
Yeah. I think it was 20. Yeah, something like that. I think I ran second to Larson. Let's see. I've just going through the memory here. I've been so close that I think I had like a straightaway lead with 2 laps to go, and that's when Shepard caught me and passed me on the final corner. And that's when I had no power steering. So I feel like I would have won that race if it wasn't for that. The power steering issue. I've flipped running second while I was battling with Josh Richards because spring steel got under the right front tire and turned me straight into the wall. Kyle Larson came in, stunk up the show that one year. I was close. I almost passed him. And then Ricky Thornton last year got us. But last year the track was so rough, it wasn't really your typical racetrack. And I actually broke a right rear shock while I was in the lead. And I never really mentioned it that night because I didn't know about it until I got back home. But the track was so rough that my right rear shock was broken half. And it was hanging on by the spring, and I don't even know how it was held together because it was broke in half. I ran second though, so
yeah, because that was an awesome race, and I know the late models are loud, but you have your drivers that you can tell which ones are pushing it harder than others. And I think that caution came out with 16 to go. I think Thornton went back to 7th, and you inherited the lead. But the way Thornton was driving that car, I mean, it was crazy because you could hear him just blasting the top. And like in that case, can you hear guys coming? Do you have an idea where they're at? And can you do anything to slow them down?
Well, obviously you've got your signal guy. If you can see him, it's not the easiest to see sometimes, but sometimes you're just a sitting duck. If someone's got a line figured out, and since we don't have mirrors or radios, we don't know the exact line they're running, and it might just be a little change, just a little difference of a line that can be a couple tenths a lap. So sometimes it's better to be in second than first in that scenario. And I've always thought about it that way is, sometimes I'd rather be second and seeing what the leader's doing, and I kind of base myself off of him and change my line. If it works, if I catch him, I know I got to keep doing that. So that's what makes racing so good. But yeah, he was on the gas. He was on the gas hard, kind of like Evolution. He was sending it. He's pretty aggressive, and that's what makes him good.
How tricky was the Volusia cushion this year? Because I know driver said it was, since they redesigned the track or added different dirt, that it was a lot worse. And do you think was it the dirt, or since they had the USAC 410s?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of a couple things. So like they changed the dirt. I remember in 2021, me and Moran were like all the way up there by the fence in the corners, and we couldn't get any higher. And now, when we went there in January this year, the grading of the track was really shelved off. Like it went from the bottom was banked pretty good, and by the time we got to the middle, it just almost went the opposite way to the wall. So by the time we came back in February, the track was better. I think after all the races got on it, um, whether from the sprint cars were there, I think it widened the racetrack out and it gave it a better, angle of the banking. So it got better slowly as all the races went on. You look at the features the last couple of nights, I think they were pretty good. The heat races were single file because it was so fast, but a lot of times I say that sometimes you got to have bad heat races to have a good feature. Sometimes if you have good heat races and you let the track get away from you and you don't do track prep, then you might not have a good feature. So I think the fans would rather see a good feature.
Yeah, I don't remember like the heat races. You remember the who wins, and if it's a good race, you remember that. But it's like, oh, who won heats 1 of 3? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fans, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll bring Abby on and ask you guys some questions together. So, speaking of fans and grandstands, what are a couple of words you would use to describe the grandstands at Highland Speedway?
I mean, they're badass because, you have a great covered grandstands, and not a whole lot of racetracks have that. And it's good too for, it's just in short walking distance from that pool we were talking about.
Yep. Yeah, and the valley, I think, and one word I think other drivers have used, maybe rowdy. Maybe it's a little bit gets a little bit rowdy at Highland Speedway.
Yeah, they can get rowdy there. They get into it, which is nice. It's awesome to see the personality of the crowd.
Yeah, I know your buddy Fager says it's one of his favorite places to come. So, yeah, why don't we bring Abby on? I know we're looking forward to seeing you guys at the track in August 14th, the World of Outlaws for the very first time at world famous Highland Speedway. So, gotta say thanks, Bobby, for the assist there. I know maybe you might have helped us out a little bit there, so we appreciate that. Yep. And Abby, how are you doing? So, Abby Foster, I'm going to throw up your TikTok here. So, Abby's got the following on TikTok. She's got all the fan girlies out there kind of seeing the softer side of Bobby Pierce, which I think is cool. Abby, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Yeah. Can't complain.
Yep, and I know we were messaging on TikTok about the poker chips. So we're working on some Highland Speedway poker chips. So I think that'll be something that'll be a cool collectible. But Abby, I think you're doing a great job on TikTok and all that. But back up a little bit. You guys both tell us the story. I know you guys met maybe back going to school, but how did you guys meet? And then maybe how did you guys end up together?
Yeah. You want me to
Go ahead.
say it? So our families have actually known each other for a really long time. My family's from this area, but I actually didn't move to Oakwood until 5th grade. And so that's when we met, and we're just friends all through kind of elementary school, through high school. And then I had moved away to kind of do my own thing in college. And then I had kind of moved back to the area, and then I actually needed someone to move me out to Denver. And my mom did not want me to drive the U-Haul truck by myself, and I didn't have a lot of guy friends. So Bobby was the one that was chosen for the job, and so he moved me out to Denver. And that was kind of the story. We never really looked back from there. So that's kind of how we reconnected, and kind of how I got involved in this whole industry.
I was just a nice guy,
So you gave her a ride out to Denver and left her out there, and then you guys still ended up together. Is that the story? If I'm getting it right?
He lived out there for a year, and then
Yep.
while that time we started dating and everything. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, Abby, you've done a great job, I think, showing the female perspective from the dirt track. So definitely follow, Abby Joe _Foster on TikTok. But kind of where do you get the inspiration, Abby, for this content? Because I see you're not afraid to touch the hot subjects, the keyboard warriors, the pit Lizzies. Where do you get the inspiration for this stuff?
Well, a lot of it, you see trending content and you think, how can I make this relevant to kind of my world? And That's kind of where our TikTok videos started. Originally, we were making them on Bobby's TikTok in terms of like revealing new wraps. And Bobby just was not interested in the upkeep of kind of just that social media management aspect of that. And I got tired of asking him, hey, can I see your TikTok so I can make sure that that video uploaded or whatever. So I started posting them on my own. But yeah, just trying to, take relevant topics and kind of crafting them into our own, really focusing on the female fans. And then more so just showing people the real side of the drivers. I think you kind of see it in some of the content that's being pushed out by Flow and things like that, where they're following along with crew chiefs or different teams. People really like that content. I think it kind of showcases that they are just humans and normal individuals. And so it's kind of nice just to push out kind of things like that.
Yep. Well, we've got the jump on all these folks on TikTok. The dirt racing community hasn't really found TikTok that much yet. I think you've got 27,000 followers. I think Highland Speedway's got about the same, but Highland Speedway, a little feather in our cap. I think we've got the most TikTok followers of any dirt track probably in the country.
That's
With
impressive.
yeah, hey, just a little feather in our cap for world famous Highland Speedway. I think, the first time I kind of remember you guys did a little competition. You posted the same video on both your TikToks, and that was the first time I think we saw Bobby dance in a TikTok video. Now all those all the audio is pulled from all those videos, which kind of sucks.
I know.
But Bobby, were you and Dad Bob and Mom, were they reluctant to kind of get on TikTok at first?
No, I feel like they're kind of troopers about it. Bob eats it up. If Bob's watching this right now, he'll be like, yeah, get me on. He's a lot of fun. Angie's a trooper. She'll be like busy working in the t-shirt trailer, and I'll be like, okay, it's that time. And she never tells me no. She's always a good sport about it. So we've gotten to the point where even crew guys are doing it with us, and they don't complain. So it is it's a family sport. It's a family team, and TikTok was kind of my way of keeping myself busy and kind of relevant in that small group. I would show up to race days and be like, okay, what can I do where I'm not in the way? And kind of have my own little thing. So that's kind of how.
Yep. Nope. That's great. Jacob, go ahead. You got a question for him.
Yeah. So what's life like on the road for a dirt racer and his girlfriend? And Abby, do you enjoy that you basically live with the crew members?
Well, the first few years of our relationship, I was teaching, so I didn't get to go on the road very much at all. A few races here or there, some of the bigger races I would go to. But then I started working remotely, which kind of allowed me to travel a lot more, especially this past year, which was nice. Getting to be on the road during such a winning season was exciting, but we're fortunate enough we have our own little like bedroom space, so we're not sleeping in a bunk bed next to the crew guys, so I can kind of go to my little oasis when I need to. But we're very fortunate. Most of our crew guys, for the most part, are very clean and respectful and fun to be around. So I definitely enjoy my space. Bobby's going racing, this weekend, and I'm staying home. I want to do some spring cleaning around the house. So it's nice to be able to pick and choose, but it's really exciting to be there and getting to watch him accomplish so many great things. It's cool.
Was there anything you don't like about being on the road?
Yeah, you'll probably see that in some of my TikToks. There's not a lot of coffee options, and when I'm working 7:30 in the morning or whatever, in the back of the trailer or the hauler with like no lights on, and I'm trying to be quiet because everyone's still sleeping. Sometimes
we get mad if we get woken up.
Yeah, they're not super in the morning. So yeah, lack of coffee shops or just places in general that I can walk to. So
what's the one where it was a sound like you're somewhere and then you open the door and it's a racetrack?
Oh yeah, the Geneva one.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, so
welcome to Wachovia or something like that, and you open the door and it's the pits in Volusia.
Yeah, so I mean, that definitely affects some of my favorite racetracks. Like if you ask me some of my favorite places to go, they are ones where I can either drive my car or they're like walking distance to things to do.
Well, you guys don't usually have a vehicle, right? I mean, usually you're just there with the hauler a lot of times and don't have. So one thing we're trying to do for Highland for some of the big races, maybe have some loaner vehicles that the touring guys can take out. Do you see any tracks that do that?
No, I mean, from time to time, anyone is almost willing to like let you borrow their car if someone's got a car there.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we kind of like the Wild West Shootout and some things like that. Like we were there for so long, we get a rental car, so it's nice to have that rental car to go, or we stay at an Airbnb or something. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Kind of a change from staying at the track.
Are there any essentials for travel, Abby, on the road from track to track?
Oh goodness. For me
Just coffee.
personally,
Just coffee.
yeah, a stocked fridge. Because I get grumpy when I don't eat, and so does he. He will tell you that.
Oh, I gotta eat.
He has to eat too. So a stocked fridge, and then probably just making sure that the guys put water in both the trailer and the hauler parts so that we don't run out of water because we all
To take a shower.
to take our showers. I think that's kind of it. I pack my bags and everything every race. I know a lot of people have commented on
You gotta
TikTok.
have your dog.
Oh yeah, and Archie, my dog, he's a must. So.
And that's the Shih Tzu.
Mhm.
Okay, because you also have the mini dachshund, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I've seen him out there. I actually petted him. I used to have a mini wiener dog, so they're one of the best.
Oh yeah.
Well, what are you guys into outside of racing? I know, like Abby, you've been really successful in pageants. You still kind of dabble in that maybe a little bit. You were Miss Illinois 2017.
Yeah, I was Miss Illinois. I went to Miss America in 2017, and then before that, I was the state fair queen for Illinois. So I actually knew about Highland Speedway way before racing was involved. I knew it for a fair pageant. My first runner-up that year was actually Madison County. So a little small connection there. But yeah, pageants. I'm currently getting my master's degree, so that keeps me pretty busy outside of work. And then I like to read. I'm a little bit of a book nerd, so.
Yep, and you were a Colts cheerleader, is that right too?
Yeah, that was when I peaked back in my glory days.
Okay, all right. So you competed in the Madison County Fair Queen pageant. Is that what you said?
Not Madison County. So I was Vermilion County, but we competed together in the state pageant, and the contestant from Madison County was my first runner-up. So I got to know.
Okay, very cool. Well, what about maybe what kind of music are you guys into? Do you guys have same tastes in music, opposite tastes?
We really have the same taste in anything.
No, we're like polar opposites.
Yeah.
But I would say our music is like a wide variety. We will listen to anything on the road or like coming home from the airport, from country to his like screamo.
I'm a super variety. I listen to anything and everything.
Yeah.
You love Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I like pop, country, like 2000s hip hop. That's where it's at.
Okay.
Kind of my
What's the last concert you guys maybe went to?
He doesn't ever get to go to anything.
Yeah. Always busy on Saturday nights.
When you race like 100 races a year, it's not much time to do anything.
I think
it makes it tough.
It was Taylor Swift, but we're actually going to Zach Bryan here soon.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Awesome.
Go to PBR. Maybe Supercross if we're lucky. I guess not.
Yeah. What about places you guys want to go on vacations to? Do you guys have any trips planned or places that you want to go this year or in the near future?
I mean, I would love to go anywhere.
A lot of places, yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about wanting to plan like a trip to Europe and doing like Scotland, Ireland. I taught over there for a summer, and so he has to hear me talk about it all the time. And I've had to spend the last 4 years listening to him talk about New Zealand, and we finally checked that out.
Well, we'll be going places, and I'll be like, man, this reminds me of New Zealand. And now she knows why.
Yeah, so now it's like, okay, we've done that. Now you have to go back to my favorite place.
Did you say Hawaii? We've been there, and that was really nice.
Oh, yeah, we did love Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we get to travel quite a bit.
Cardinals or Cubs fans?
Oh, we don't really watch baseball, but I've grown up a Cardinals fan. There's no, I don't think there's an Illinois sports team I cheer for.
There really isn't. Yeah, I love the Bears and the Colts for football.
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah, we're not really big into baseball.
I used to go to Cardinals games though, like every summer in high school. That was like the it thing to do. But
if you look at my background, I'm a little bit into baseball.
Okay.
Especially the Cardinals. So not a Cubs fan, Bobby, necessarily.
Well, I mean, if I had to pick, I'd be a Cubs fan.
You would be? Okay. All right. Well, we won't hold that totally against you. So what about are there any racing destinations like racetracks that you said you like going to Vado? Are there other tracks that you enjoy like going to Fairbury? You don't have to say Highland, it's okay.
No, for real. Oh, so the pool. We said we were going to talk about it. The pool.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. Is there a story there, Abby?
Yeah, I'm putting in a request now. Last year, I was so excited to go to the pool, and I got there, and they were closing because no one was there. So if you're listening to this, when the World Outlaws race comes to town, everybody, we need to go to the pool so that I can enjoy it, and they don't shut it as I get there.
All right. Well, we're gonna clip this video out. I do know the mayor and city manager in Highland, so we'll send it to them, to the director of parks. I am on the tree commission, so I'll see if I have any pull on the Highland Tree Commission that we can make sure that pool's open
Yes.
on the afternoon of August 14th. We'll see if we can do that for you.
But yeah, and there's anywhere else. I mean, hey, we're just fortunate that we can go race in a lot of different places, and you know, with World of Outlaws, we were going everywhere last year, so that was pretty cool.
Yep. Well, kind of last question, because we're getting about the hour mark here, and we want to keep that podcast algorithm going. They like that hour mark. Keyboard warriors, anytime you win as much as you do, Bobby, the haters come out. How do you guys deal with the negativity? And I know, Abby, you've mentioned it in a few TikToks, where you get defensive and you want to defend, Bobby in every comment. Have you guys developed thicker skins? We get hate on the Speedway page that we have to deal with, and it's like, it gets really annoying. So yeah, how do you guys deal with it? Have you gotten thicker skins?
I've had to deal with it forever. So I think, my skin's been thick for a long time because I just I straight up don't care. But she's a little more new to it.
It doesn't, the hate, it doesn't bug me as much if they have a profile picture and an actual name. It's when these, I'm going to say they're probably grown men who hide behind their little characters or their gray photos, and they say things that they would never say in person.
Right.
That's when it starts to give me a little bit of an ick. It's like, okay. And the inner teacher in me, where it's like, treat people with kindness and respect, comes in. So yeah, I don't handle it as well as he does. I also am kind of a hothead, and he's very level-headed. So I think that plays a part in it too. But at the end of the day, like Bobby says all the time, you're gonna have haters when you're successful in anything, or you're gonna have people that doubt you. And so just to let it roll off, your shoulders. But it makes for great content for me. So
well, Bobby, I know Kenny Wallace made some comments about it, and I think I made a comment in his comment section that said, anything somebody puts on social media, they should have to say to their mom.
That's funny. That's pretty good. Kenny Wallace, he's full of great quotes. So I agree.
Yeah, and he's been a great supporter for me and for Highland Speedway here in the last couple of years. Kind of talk about your relationship, Bobby, with Kenny. I know you guys have gotten close here in the last few years.
Wearing this Low Voltage Solutions, my main sponsor this year actually came from Kenny Wallace. So, because Low Voltage sponsored Kenny, and Kenny saw that I was trying to find a main sponsor, and he actually even helped me out a little bit, trying to pump it up and get it out there that I was looking for one. And this guy, Gary from Low Voltage, great friend of mine now, great dude, was sponsoring Kenny, and Kenny said, hey, how about you look into Pierce and see about that. And from then on, we built a great relationship. So yeah, I mean, I've known Kenny Wallace forever, been a long time. Of course, he's great friends with my family. And I mean, he's just probably the best dude there is to be around the pit area, hands down. So he's always happy. And if you're feeling down, just go to Kenny Wallace. He'll cheer up.
Yeah, that laugh. He's got that infectious laugh. Again, he's been very, very supportive of our efforts what we've been trying to do here at Highland. And maybe talk, have you guys noticed? I mean, are you guys noticing Highland Speedway a little more out there, kind of on the national level?
Yeah, definitely. And having the World of Outlaws, I think that's huge for Highland Speedway. I mean, it's got to be the biggest race Highland has ever had, and I think the fans are going to support it tremendously. I'd love to see it. So, when Steve Francis at World of Outlaws asked me, hey, do you think Highland can have a World of Outlaw race? And I said, well, of course, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be probably one of the best shows of the year, in my opinion. So, but yeah, we've been noticing a lot, everything you're doing for Highland. I think a a lot of other racetracks need to do that for sure. So.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Jacob, are you excited about World of Outlaws coming in August?
Yes, I'm very excited. I already told my boss, I'm like, hey, don't count on me being there that day. Like, I have plans to be there about 10 o'clock. I'm going to hopefully tailgate all day. And come feature time, I will be in the grandstands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna step up the camping efforts at Highland Speedway this year. You know, hey, we're flattered by everything that our friends up north at Fairbury are doing. And, you know, we're kind of, you know, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So Matt Curl, all the guys up there at Fairbury, we're watching what they're doing. You know, we've got an even larger community here, huge business community. So we've kind of tapped back into that. So that's why you're seeing, you know, probably more of Highland Speedway out there too. Well, Abby and Bobby, it's about time we kind of wrap this up, the Highland Dirt Podcast. Did you guys have fun?
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Any shout outs? I know you shouted out your one sponsor, Low Voltage Solutions, and I think it's Gary St. Cyr. Any other shout outs you guys want to give?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. Of course, shout out to Low Voltage Solutions, Gary and everybody. Huge shout out to Hoker Trucking, Mississippi Valley Transportation, Rio Grande Waste Services, and the AZ3. A new sponsor I got this year is Collins Brothers Towing, Fast One Speed Shop, Carnegie Towing, Leak and Tree Services, Toyota of Danville, Bloomington Normal Truck Performance, Bill Shocks, Bico Race Engines, Longhorn Chassis. And I know there's a bunch, A Plus Vacuum, if I said them yet. Just everyone that helps us out, all the fans, huge shout out to them. You know, of course, none of this would be possible without you guys. And I hope to see a huge turnout at Highland Speedway for the World of Outlaw race.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. And again, you can find Abby Joe _Foster on TikTok. So hop over on TikTok and give Abby a follow over there. Abby, I told you, there's a lot of people that want to see you. There were some comments last night on the Speedway page that say, I follow Bobby Pierce just to see Abby.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to all those girls that have been commenting and hyping me up, because this is definitely out of my element, but I appreciate it. So.
Yep. Yeah. And Bobby, your next race, you're going to be racing the Lucas Oil races at Golden Isles this weekend, right?
That's right. And yeah, shout out to Abby for gaining me some new fans that were not BP fans in the past.
Yeah. Hey, they're seeing the softer side of Bobby Pierce. I think more racers need to take heed, you know, take lessons from that and get, you know, their girlfriends and wives, significant others out there on social media and kind of showing that side. So, well, thanks you guys. Really appreciate it. Good luck this weekend. Safe travels down there, going down to Jacksonville and to Golden Isles. Say hi to our boy, Stevie Stevenson down there. He's from this area. So he just bought Golden Isles a couple years ago, doing a great job down there. I'd also like to thank my co-host, Jacob Blumenstein. Jacob, tell everybody where they can find you most days.
Most days you can find me at Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. I'm a car salesman there, but I can sell you anything off our 3 lots, new or used.
Yep. And let me remind you, the Highland Dirt Podcast is brought to you today by our friends at Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com with Jansen Ford of Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge, Jeep Ram and Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. They have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's go, JANSEN.com. And Jansen Auto Group, like you said, Jacob, they're proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. Well, hey, do you want to sponsor a race? Do you maybe want to sponsor the Highland Dirt Podcast? Shoot us an email at highlanddirtpodcast@gmail.com. Last year in 2023, we reached more than 5 million people on social media, and it's only growing from there. So make sure you send us an email, highlanddirtpodcast@gmail.com, if you're interested in that. So, guys, make sure you follow Highland Speedway and the Highland Dirt Podcast on all socials, and TikTok. And don't forget, opening night 2024 at world famous Highland Speedway is Saturday, March 16th. Only 25 days away. You can also download this episode where you find all your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And I'm Kurt Vonder, Haar, your host of the Highland Dirt Podcast. And remember, folks, whether it's Peevely, Brownstown, Tri-City, Belle Claire, or Highland Speedway, get out there and support your local dirt track, would you? We'll see you guys next week.